Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to the spring campaign for Arkham Horror, the card game. Earlier this morning we had the last scenario in the campaign, the Devourer Below. And after a disaster, basically of my own making, where Daisy got herself killed, or defeated by damage, I had to resign with Zoe because she wasn't picking up the clues that we were going to need in a million years. So we ended up having Arkham succumb to its terrible fate, as the campaign resolution put it. So for those of you who aren't familiar with how I do my campaigns, I always start with a campaign intro to set the scene for the campaign. Then we go through each scenario, doing upgrades between each one where appropriate, and now we're going to tie the campaign up with a little outro where I give you my general thoughts on the campaign itself, how our particular playthrough went, and how each of the investigators fared. So first, let's go through some general thoughts on the campaign itself. So obviously this is the introductory campaign to Arkham Horror, the card game. So you're supposed to learn a lot about how to play the game, which I'm hoping this learning campaign really helped you guys out with as well. So I'm curious to know how your campaigns went if you were playing along with me. Once again, thank you for playing along if you did. So again, I hope you enjoyed the campaign. But the three different scenarios are designed to teach you different things about the game. The Gathering is I joke that I guess the joke is that there are lessons that come out of each scenario. So the lesson that comes out of the Gathering is that the scenarios are winnable despite the overwhelming odds you might face in the course of a scenario. The Midnight Masks is supposed to teach you that you're not going to be able to do everything you want to do in the time of the scenario. In fact, if you remember my playthrough of this one, you saw that things, once we advanced to Act 2, kind of went haywire on us, and we had to get out with what we had. And then the Devourer Below taught us that you're probably still going to lose a lot, even against overwhelming odds. So just do what you can with it, basically. But those are just some general musings on the campaign, on our campaign in particular. So again, this being the first campaign of the game, it's very much an introductory campaign. So I've played this campaign a lot, and as I mentioned at the start, I was trying not to metagame too much, but there was probably some of that still managed to slip through the cracks. Hopefully not too much to ruin your enjoyment of the campaign, but that's just my general musing on the campaign. So now we can talk about the investigators, and let's go first to Zoe. Hello, Zoe. When I move into talking about the investigators, this is the part where I generally will talk about how I thought each investigator did, and some thoughts I would do if I had more experience to put into the deck. So Zoe was actually largely on the path that I had in mind for her. I wanted her to get some stronger weapons, but she is a little bit on the experience-hungry side, especially since her first 4 experience, at least every time I've played her, has gone into upgrading her vicious blows right away, just because we need to be able to crank out the damage and quickly. The problem is there really isn't much I can do in terms of clue gathering. Zoe tends to beat her clues out of her enemies, maybe using some of her splash cards to grab like Drawn to the Flame or something like that for more clue gathering, just because she's typically well equipped to be able to deal with any enemies that might come out of drawing the top card of the encounter deck. But otherwise, yeah, there's probably not much I could have done with Zoe, again, other than just trying to get more clue gathering. I did try to have a general build of trying to turn her into a tester, just because I didn't expect her to have resource problems. She mostly did okay on the resource generation front, but as you probably saw in that last scenario, she was very much starved for resources, but which did cause us problems. You kind of stranded some expensive assets in the hand. But our bigger problem was when we got Daisy defeated by rushing her into the We got Daisy killed by rushing her into the ritual site. I think if I would have remembered a little more carefully, I probably would have held up on that, just so Zoe can potentially go in and be the one to advance the scenario, or advance the agenda, especially with something like that coming up. But that was me derping on that. Anyway, that will do it for Zoe. Now let's go spend some time with Daisy. Hello, Daisy. Part of the problem with taking her into a campaign like this, and I kind of remembered this from the spring campaign last year, Daisy's very experience hungry. She really needs a lot of experience to get going. And it didn't help that when I wanted to upgrade if I would have gotten the Dream Diary translated after the first scenario when I had a golden opportunity to do so, I probably would have been able to get a much stronger Dream Diary out of that. But as it was, we didn't manage to translate the Dream Diary until the second scenario, until during the second scenario. And by that point, there were already too many other upgrades that we needed to make. So there really wasn't much I could have done with Daisy. Seeker doesn't really offer a lot of good combat options. For combat options, I'd probably have to lean into her Mystic Splash a little bit more. But only splashing up to level 2 Mystic, she doesn't get access to some of the best tools that Mystics have access to, like your higher leveled Shrivelings or your leveled up Storm of Spirits to give you more AoE damage. Stuff like that you'd probably need to be an effective monster puncher as a Mystic. So, I feel like Daisy and Zoe are probably two investigators you can get by with in a 4-player campaign where you have more room for specialization. But in the smaller count campaigns where you need more generalization, they probably don't work too terribly well, just because they're so specialized. And I really knew that coming into this campaign, but I was more focused on making sure that the newer players in the community could really help them make sense of everything that goes into a campaign. So that will do it for general musings about the investigators. Now let's move back up top to wrap this video up. And with that, the spring campaign for 2023 comes to a close. Once again, if you've been playing along, thank you for playing along with this campaign, and hopefully I was able to help you make sense of this game. And again, let me know in the comments how your campaign went. I'm curious to know. So we're going to have another busy week on the channel. Wednesday we'll be back in the Call of Cthulhu universe playing Call of Cthulhu Alone Against the Frost. Saturday, well, I don't exactly know when it's going to go up this week. It's going to be a long recipe, that's for sure. But we'll have Mystical Munchies on Saturday, on sometime this coming weekend, as we feature the dessert in the World of Warcraft New Flavors of Azeroth cookbook, Tweet's Flavorful Flan. And then next week we'll debut our first sports simulator on the channel, as we play a boxing game from Straight Jab Media called Title Bout 2. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.